A titanium round cuts through the shimmering heat waves, its path invisible until impact. 3/4 of a mile away, a steel target disintegrates, the sound of its destruction taking 2 full seconds to return across the sun-baked Arizona canyon. Before we dive deeper into this tale of justice and redemption, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. If this story resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed. Tomorrow's video will reveal something even more extraordinary. Dawn breaks over a weathered adobe house perched on the edge of the Sonoran Desert, its walls the color of dried blood in the early morning light. Jackson Cole, a lean man in his 50s with sun-weathered skin and calculating grey eyes, begins his morning ritual with the same precision that once made him legendary in circles few civilians ever hear about. His calloused hands work methodically as he prepares his morning espresso, the Italian machine on his counter oddly sophisticated compared to the rustic surroundings. The house's interior is minimalist, almost Spartan, save for 2 things: a collection of rare vintage firearms mounted on the wall, which most visitors assume are replicas, and a small wooden box sitting high on a shelf, its dark wood gleaming with years of careful maintenance. Those who know weapons might recognize the firearms as priceless museum pieces. Nobody has ever seen what's in the box. Outside, a custom shooting range stretches into the desert, though most locals think it's just a retired gunsmith's hobby setup. Steel targets dot the landscape at intervals that would seem random to the untrained eye. 400 yards, 600 yards, 1,000 yards, each one positioned with mathematical precision, aligned to account for the region's notorious crosswinds. His only companion is a red Australian cattle dog named Artemis, whose alertness betrays her military training. The dog moves like a shadow alongside Cole, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. Local ranch hands whisper that they've never heard the dog bark, but they've seen her stop prowlers dead in their tracks with just a silent stare. In the small town of Copper Springs, 20 miles from Cole's property, he's known simply as the Desert Gunsmith. His reputation for breathing new life into old firearms brings customers from 3 states away, though few ever hear him speak more than a dozen words. His workshop, a converted barn that smells of gun oil and desert sage, has become something of a legend among serious collectors. The interior of his workshop tells its own story. Precision tools line the walls in perfect order, each one maintained with obsessive care. A worn leather chair sits in one corner, its arms smooth from years of customers waiting patiently while Cole works his magic on their firearms. A ventilation system hums quietly, keeping the desert heat at bay while filtering the fine metal dust from his grinding work. This morning, Cole adjusts his reading glasses as he examines a customer's prized Winchester, his movements deliberate and efficient. The worn brass magnifier mounted to his workbench reveals every imperfection in the aged mechanism. A small notebook beside him contains measurements precise to 1/1000th of an inch, written in a steady hand that seems too perfect for a man his age. At Rosa's diner in town, Emma Ramirez has been serving Cole the same breakfast for the past 5 years. Huevos rancheros with extra chile verde and black coffee strong enough to etch steel. She's one of the few people who's managed to crack his stoic facade, even if just barely. Today, as she refills his cup, she notices something different in his demeanor, a tension in his shoulders she hasn't seen before. "Weather's changing," he says simply, though his eyes methodically scan the diner's interior, lingering for a fraction of a second on 3 newcomers at the counter. They're rough-looking men who carry themselves with an unearned confidence, their leather jackets too new and too heavy for the desert heat. Cole notices how their eyes follow Emma's teenage daughter Sophia as she waits tables, their gaze predatory and calculating. Back at his property, Cole receives an unexpected call from an unlisted number. The voice on the other end belongs to Captain Sarah Chen, his former spotter from another life. Her words are clipped, professional, but carry an undertone of urgency. "They found Martinez's compound," she says without preamble. "The Scorpion cartel is moving north. They're looking for something or someone." Cole's free hand moves instinctively to the wooden box on the high shelf, where an old logbook contains coordinates and calculations that would seem impossible to most marksmen. The pages document shots that defy the laws of physics and the laws of probability. That afternoon, young Miguel Torres brings in his grandfather's lever-action rifle for repair. The teenager's enthusiasm reminds Cole of simpler times, back before certain choices set him on a path there was no returning from. As Cole works, Miguel notices something unusual, a tattoo on the gunsmith's forearm, partially visible beneath his rolled sleeve. It appears to be a scorpion, but unlike any Miguel has seen before. This one is split in half by what looks like a bullet's trajectory. Before Miguel can ask about it, Cole pulls down his sleeve with a deliberate motion that makes it clear the conversation is over. "Ready by Thursday," he says, his tone brooking no further discussion. Miguel nods, sensing the shift in atmosphere, and heads out into the afternoon heat. That evening, as Cole performs his nightly security check, a habit ingrained deeper than memory, Artemis's ears prick forward, her muscles tense as she stares into the gathering darkness. Cole spots it too, the brief flash of light from the rocky outcropping a half-mile away. Someone's watching. Amateur hour. They're using equipment that reflects the setting sun. Inside his workshop, Cole pulls up a hidden panel in the floorboards. Inside lies a custom Macmillan TAC 338 rifle, a weapon that hasn't seen use in 7 years. His fingers trace the familiar curves of the stock, muscle memory from countless hours behind the scope flooding back. This rifle represents everything he left behind and everything he kept close, knowing someday the past would come calling. "Not yet," he whispers to Artemis, replacing the weapon, "but soon." In town, Sheriff Diana Reyes reviews a federal bulletin about the Scorpion cartel's movement through the Southwest. 3 banks hit in 2 weeks, each robbery executed with military precision, leaving no survivors. Her deputy, James Running Bear, brings her troubling news. They seem to be following a pattern, and First Federal Bank of Copper Springs fits their profile perfectly. What nobody realizes is that the cartel's presence in Copper Springs isn't random. Their leader, known only as El Alacran, the Scorpion, has been methodically working his way north, following a trail that went cold 7 years ago. He's hunting someone who, according to underworld whispers, disappeared into these desert mountains. Someone known in certain circles only as Quicksilver, the most lethal precision shooter the Special Forces had ever produced. As the sun sets over Copper Springs, Cole sits in his darkened living room, cleaning his old service pistol. Artemis rests at his feet, both of them aware that their quiet life is about to change. On his table, tomorrow's newspaper sits unopened, its headline warning of approaching storms. Cole knows better. The real storm is already here, hiding in plain sight at Rosa's diner, wearing leather jackets in the desert heat. Jackson Cole, known to most as a simple gunsmith, feels the weight of his past settling back onto his shoulders. Tomorrow he'll go through the motions of normal life one last time, but tonight he prepares. His hands move through the familiar ritual of weapons maintenance, each motion a reminder of skills that, like his rifles, have been carefully preserved, waiting for the moment they'd be needed again. The next morning arrives with an unusual stillness that sets Artemis on edge. The dog's posture is rigid, her ears constantly moving, tracking sounds too faint for human ears. The desert itself seems to be holding its breath, the usual morning chorus of cactus wrens and curve-billed thrashers notably absent. Cole notices other signs as he steps onto his front porch, coffee in hand. His trained eye catches subtle disturbances in the landscape, scuff marks on his gravel driveway that weren't there yesterday, a broken creosote bush along his property line, the faint imprint of boot treads that don't belong to any local ranch. Hence, the dawn light reveals other discrepancies that would be invisible to untrained eyes. The fine layer of dust on his truck's hood has been disturbed by someone looking through the windows. A security camera hidden in a weathered birdhouse has been shifted 3 degrees to the left. Even the desert sand tells a story. The night. Visitors tried to cover their tracks, but they don't know how to account for the way morning dew affects surface tension. In town, the atmosphere has shifted like the desert air before a thunderstorm. The 3 strangers from yesterday's diner have multiplied into 6, strategically positioned around Copper Springs' small downtown area. Cole spots one, lounging outside. The general store, another pretending to read a newspaper near the bank, 2 more sharing a suspiciously long breakfast at Rose's. Their practiced casualness sets off warning bells in his mind. These aren't random drifters. Their watches are too expensive, their boots too new. One of them has a shooter's callus on his trigger finger, visible as he lifts his coffee cup. At his workshop, Cole receives an unexpected visitor. Sheriff Diana Reyes appears in his doorway, her stance professional but concerned. Unlike most law enforcement Cole has known, Reyes carries herself with the quiet confidence of someone who earned her position through competence rather than politics. She's holding a federal bulletin with surveillance photos of known Scorpion cartel members. "Thought you should see this," she says, spreading the photos across his workbench. "They hit another bank yesterday, just 80 miles south. Pattern suggests we're next." Cole studies the photos with more attention than a simple gunsmith should show. His eyes linger on one image in particular, a man known as El Alacran, the cartel's leader. There's something familiar about the way he carries himself, something that stirs old memories. The way he stands in the grainy surveillance photo, weight slightly forward on his left foot. It's a stance Cole has seen before, in another. Life in places that don't officially exist. "Any of these men look familiar?" Reyes asks, watching his reaction carefully. "Some folks mention seeing strangers in town." Her tone is casual, but Cole recognizes the technique. She's fishing, comparing his reaction to a hypothesis she's already formed. "Can't say they do," Cole replies, but his hand unconsciously moves to his forearm, where the scorpion tattoo lies hidden beneath his sleeve. Reyes notices the gesture but says nothing. As she leaves, Cole catches a glimpse of Deputy Running Bear, talking to one of the strangers outside. The conversation seems friendly enough, but Cole recognizes the subtle signs of intelligence gathering. The stranger is asking questions about the town, about its residents, about any former military personnel. In the area, at Rosa's diner, Sofia Ramirez is working the lunch shift when 4 of the newcomers enter. Their eyes scan the room with predatory intent, lingering too long on the teenage waitress. Cole, sitting in his usual corner booth, feels his trigger finger twitch, a reflex he hasn't experienced in years. He notices how they enter. 2. Sweep left, 2 right, automatically covering all angles. 1 keeps his back to the wall, maintaining sightlines to both exits. Military training, but not American. Their movements suggest private military contractors, possibly South American. "Everything okay, Mr. Cole?" Sophia asks, noticing his tension. She's sharp for her age, already picking up on the subtle shift in atmosphere. Her mother, Emma, watches. From behind the counter, her hand straying beneath the register where Cole knows she keeps a 38 special, a gift he gave her last Christmas, though she never asked why. Before Cole can answer, one of the men approaches their table. It's Marco. Vargas, though Cole doesn't know his name yet. The man's denim jacket is open enough to reveal a shoulder holster, and Cole notes at least 2 backup weapons. Ankle holster left side, small of back carry. Amateur mistakes. A professional would better conceal their hardware. Nice town, you. Got here? Vargas says, his smile not reaching his eyes. His accent is slight but distinctive. Colombian, private military background, trying too hard to sound American. Especially that bank. Real old-fashioned building. Bet it's got real old-fashioned security, too. Cole meets his gaze steadily, years of practice keeping his expression neutral. He catalogues every detail. The man's stance, his sight lines, the subtle tell in his left eye that suggests he'll draw right-handed despite wearing his visible holster on the left. Town's got everything it needs, Cole replies, his voice carrying a weight that makes Vargas pause. Including people who look out for it. The implied threat hangs in the air as Vargas's hand drifts toward his concealed weapon. A rookie move, telegraphing intent. His companion calls him away before the tension can escalate further. As they leave, Cole notices they're driving a black Ford Expedition with New Mexico plates, stolen probably and recently repainted. The front tire treads are new, but the rears are worn. They're carrying heavy cargo in the back, likely weapons and equipment. That afternoon, Miguel Torres returns to pick up his grandfather's rifle. The teenager's usual chatter is replaced by nervous energy. Cole recognizes the signs of someone carrying information they know is dangerous. The boy's eyes keep darting to the windows, checking angles of approach he shouldn't even be aware of. "Mr. Cole," Miguel says, glancing over his shoulder, "those men in town, they were asking about you, about whether anyone around here was military, especially shooters. Said they were writing a book about veterans." The boy's hands are steady as he handles his grandfather's rifle. Good genetics for shooting, Cole notes absently. In another life, he might have made a fine marksman. Cole's expression doesn't change, but internally pieces start falling into place. He hands Miguel the repaired rifle, along with something extra, a small piece of paper with a phone number. "If you see those men again," Cole says quietly, "call that number, ask for Sarah, tell her Quicksilver sends regards." Miguel nods, understanding the gravity of the moment, even if he doesn't grasp its full meaning. As the boy leaves, Cole moves to his computer, another habit he's maintained. He begins searching news reports about the Scorpion cartel, looking for patterns, for connections. What he finds sends a chill down his spine. The cartel's path through the Southwest isn't random. They've been hitting towns in a specific sequence, each one home to a former military member. 3 veterans are already dead, each one a former Special Forces shooter, each one killed execution style before the bank robberies. His phone rings, a secure line he hasn't used in 7 years. It's Captain Chen. Before Cole can speak, her urgent voice comes through. "They found Martinez. He's alive, but in bad shape. The Scorpions didn't just torture him for information, they were testing him, making him take impossible shots. They're not just looking for you anymore, Jack. They're eliminating everyone from Operation Scorpion's Tail. They're trying to find someone specific, someone who can make shots that shouldn't be possible." Cole moves quickly to his bedroom, pulls out the TAC 338 rifle. This time, he removes it completely from its case and begins a thorough check of the weapon. The familiar weight brings back memories. A mountain pass in Colombia, a shot that defied physics, a mission that was supposed to end the cartel forever. Artemis watches from the doorway, her whole body alert with anticipation. The dog remembers too. She was there for the final mission, just a pup then, but already showing signs of the warrior she'd become. In town, Sheriff Reyes is piecing together her own puzzle. The federal bulletin contains redacted military records, connected to the cartel's victims. She begins running a background check on Jackson Cole, her instincts telling her there's more to the quiet gunsmith than meets the eye. 20 years of law enforcement experience has taught her to trust her gut, and right now it's screaming that she's standing on the edge of something much bigger than a potential bank robbery. As evening approaches, Cole spots 2 men watching. His house from the rocky outcropping. They're better at concealment than Vargas, but to Cole's trained eye, they might as well be standing in broad daylight. He makes a show of closing his curtains, turning off lights, appearing to settle in for the night. Through his thermal scope, he watches their heat signatures shift as they change positions. They're good, moving only during natural sound cover, using the terrain effectively, but they've made one crucial mistake. They're hunting a legend, without knowing what made him legendary in the first place. Instead of sleeping, he moves silently through his house, gathering supplies. Money, ammunition, and a satellite phone are stashed in strategic locations. He changes into dark clothing, comfortable but practical. The TAC 338 is cleaned, loaded, and ready. Each round in his magazine is hand-loaded, each bullet precisely, machined to his specifications. At these ranges, in these crosswinds, standard ammunition won't cut it. Artemis's low growl alerts him to movement outside. Through his scope, Cole watches as the two observers advance toward his house, thinking him asleep. Their movement pattern is professional, one covering while the other advances, using natural concealment, maintaining proper intervals. But they're using urban warfare tactics in desert terrain. Fatal mistake. The old sharpshooter allows himself a grim smile, the first real smile in years. In his mind, he's already calculated every possible shot, factored in wind speed, temperature, barometric pressure, the Coriolis effect at these distances. Time to remind them, he whispers to Artemis, why they called me Quicksilver. The Arizona night grows darker, and somewhere in the distance, coyotes begin their nightly chorus. The quiet life Jackson Cole built for himself is about to shatter, but as his finger finds its familiar place near the trigger, he realizes part of him has been waiting for this moment all along. 7 years of peace was never going to be enough. Not when you're the only man alive who can make impossible shots possible. The two observers make their first mistake at precisely 2:17 a.m. Through his thermal scope, Cole watches as they split up, a fundamental error in unknown territory. The one taking the northern approach is younger, more aggressive in his movements. The southern infiltrator moves with more patience, but he's favoring his left leg slightly. Old injury, probably Afghanistan or Iraq. Both are carrying modified M4 carbines with suppressor attachments, cartel standard issue, but their weapon handling suggests formal military training. The desert night amplifies every sound, from the soft crunch of boots on gravel to the distant cry of a hunting owl. The temperature has dropped to 45 degrees. Perfect conditions for precision shooting, with density altitude at optimal levels. Cole has memorized every inch of this terrain, every shadow, every potential point of cover. He's spent 7 years preparing for a night exactly like this. Artemis lies silently at Cole's feet in his hidden observation post, a concealed platform he built into the house's roof architecture. The dog's military training shows in her complete stillness, not even her tail twitching, as she watches the intruders through the night, vision goggles Cole modified for canine use. Another piece of equipment that would raise questions if anyone knew about it. Her specialized combat harness carries its own array of sensors, feeding data to Cole's tactical display. Through his earpiece, Cole picks up fragments of their radio communications. Their encryption is good, but not good enough to defeat the electronic warfare gear hidden in his workshop. Position Alpha clear, the northern infiltrator whispers, moving to breach point. Their voices carry the distinctive accent of Colombian Special Forces, exactly what Cole expected. He can hear the subtle differences in their communication style. These men, trained at the Lancero School in Ptolemida, probably under his old acquaintance Colonel Ramirez. The desert air carries the scent of creosote and sage, mixed with the metallic hint of gun oil from the infiltrators' weapons. Cole's enhanced optics pick up details most would miss. The way their equipment is arranged suggests training in urban environments, not desert warfare. Their clothing is too new, lacking the wear patterns of experienced operators in this terrain. His phone vibrates silently. A text from Captain Chen. Satellite shows 3 vehicles approaching from the south. 8 heat signatures, heavy weapons, ETA 15 minutes. Cole allows himself a small smile. They're getting sloppy, sending in the advance team before their backup is in position. It's a rookie mistake that speaks to their commander's desperation. The Southern infiltrator makes their second mistake, touching the workshop door without checking for security measures. Cole watches through his thermal scope as the man's hand connects with the conductive metal handle. In an instant, a non-lethal electric charge courses through the doorframe, not enough to cause serious harm, but enough to disable. The man drops silently, his nervous system temporarily overloaded. His partner doesn't notice immediately, another tactical error that would have earned them severe reprimands in their training days. "Contact lost with Team 2! The Northern infiltrator hisses into his radio. "No visual on..." His transmission cuts off as Cole's first shot catches the man's radio, the bullet passing through the equipment without touching flesh. A warning shot, delivered with surgical precision. The sound echoes off the desert rocks, creating the illusion of multiple shooters. Cole has carefully mapped the acoustic properties of his property, using the natural terrain to his advantage. "That's one magazine empty and your comms are down," Cole's voice echoes from carefully hidden speakers around the property. "Consider your next move carefully. The psychological effect is immediate. The Northern infiltrator can't determine the voice's source, creating the impression that Cole is everywhere and nowhere. Years of experience have taught him that fear is often more effective than bullets." Inside the house, Cole moves silently through pre-planned routes, Artemis matching his movements step for step. They've practiced this dozens of times, but tonight it's not a drill. The dog's specialized training allows her to anticipate his movements, maintaining perfect tactical spacing without verbal commands. Through the thermal scope, he watches 3 SUVs approaching along the desert access road. They're running dark, no headlights, using night vision. Standard cartel tactical approach, but their spacing is too tight. They're bunched up, presenting a perfect target for area denial weapons. The night air grows colder as a high cloud layer moves in, changing the atmospheric conditions. Cole makes minute adjustments to his scope, compensating for the shifting humidity and temperature. His custom ammunition is designed for exactly these conditions, each round hand-loaded to account for the specific barrel harmonics of his rifle. His radio crackles, a new voice, one that sends a chill down his spine. "Impressive security system. Quicksilver," the voice says in accented English. "But did you really think we wouldn't find you eventually?" Cole recognizes the voice instantly. Colonel Victor Ramirez, former commander of Colombia's Special Operations Command. 7 years ago, in a mountain valley that doesn't appear on any official maps, Cole had watched him die, or so he thought. The memory surfaces with crystal clarity. The impossible shot, the explosion that followed, the mission that went wrong in ways that defied explanation. "The shot you made that day," Ramirez continues, "no one believed it was possible. 3 targets, with 1 round accounting for wind, elevation, and bullet drop. Physics said it couldn't be done, but you did it. That's why we need you. The world is changing, Quicksilver. The laws of physics aren't as absolute as we once thought." Cole maintains his silence, moving to a new position. The SUVs are closing in, but they haven't noticed the subtle changes in the terrain. Modifications he's made over the years. Small berms that appear natural, but will force them into predictable paths. Loose gravel, strategically placed to affect traction. Even the native vegetation has been carefully managed to create specific sight lines. "Your country abandoned you. Quicksilver," Ramirez's voice takes on a persuasive tone, "declared the operation a failure. Buried the truth, but we remembered. We've spent 7 years searching for the only man who could make impossible shots possible, the only one who truly understood what happened in that valley. Through his scope, Cole spots a glint of metal in one of the SUVs, a Barrett 50 caliber rifle. They've brought serious hardware expecting a long-range engagement. Another mistake. Cole doesn't do long-range anymore, not when he wants to end things. His mind flashes back to that day in Colombia, the shot that seemed to defy the laws of physics, the way the bullet appeared to split in mid-flight, striking targets that shouldn't have been possible to hit with a single round. The Northern infiltrator is still trying to reach his unconscious partner, making rookie mistakes in his movement. Cole could take him out a dozen different ways, but that would reveal too much too soon. Instead, he watches, gathering intelligence on their tactics and equipment. "Last chance," Cole finally responds, his voice carried by the hidden speakers. "Take your men and leave. There's nothing for you here except bad memories and worse odds." Even as he speaks, he's already calculating trajectories, factoring in the changing wind patterns, the slight temperature variations across his field of fire. Ramirez's laugh crackles through the radio. "Always the professional. But you haven't seen what we've built, what we've discovered. The shot you made that day, it wasn't just skill. It was something else, something that defied physics. We've learned to replicate it, Quicksilver. We've learned to break the rules of reality itself." The implications hit Cole like a physical blow. The murdered veterans, the tests, the impossible shots they were forced to attempt before their executions. The cartel wasn't just killing potential threats. They were conducting experiments, trying to reproduce something they didn't understand. Something that happened 7 years ago in a valley that officially doesn't exist. "Sir," a new voice breaks in on the radio. "Satellite shows police movement in town. Local sheriff's department is mobilizing." The voice carries a hint of worry. They hadn't planned for local law enforcement involvement. Cole's phone vibrates again, another text from Chen. "Package secure. Martinez talking. It's worse than we thought. Don't let them take you alive." The Valley experiment, they've replicated it. Multiple sites, multiple failures. You're not the only one they're hunting. The Northern infiltrator finally reaches his partner, dragging him toward cover. Cole could take them both out with one shot, but that's not the plan. Instead, he triggers his second surprise, a series of carefully placed lighting systems that throw harsh white light across the property, overwhelming night vision equipment. The sudden illumination reveals more details about his opponents. Their equipment is top-tier military grade, but modified in ways that suggest experimentation rather than standard tactical upgrades. The SUVs screech to a halt as their drivers are temporarily blinded. Cole takes advantage of the chaos, putting 2 rounds through engine blocks, disabling but not destroying the vehicles. No need to waste good cover. The shots are precise, calculated to disable specific systems while leaving the vehicles intact as obstacles. "Impressive." Ramirez's voice has lost its persuasive tone. "But did you really think we came unprepared?" A new sound fills the night, the distinctive whop-whop of helicopter rotors. "We have a lot to discuss, Quicksilver. About physics, about impossible shots, and about what really happened in that valley 7 years ago, about how you did something that should have been impossible, and why we've spent 7 years trying to understand it." Cole's mind races, processing multiple scenarios simultaneously. The helicopter complicates things, but not as much as they think. He reaches into his tactical vest, removing what appears to be a modified laser pointer, something else left over from his previous life, a prototype that never made it into official service. A device designed to do something that, like his impossible shot, shouldn't work according to conventional physics. "You're right about one thing," Cole responds, moving to his final position. "That shot in the valley, it wasn't just skill, but neither was this." His finger squeezes the trigger just as Artemis lets out her first bark in 7 years, a signal to let him know the timing is perfect. The shot seems to bend reality itself, curving around cover, splitting into multiple trajectories that shouldn't be possible. In the chaos that follows, one thing becomes clear. The legend of Quicksilver was never about the shots he could make. It was about the shots that couldn't be made at all. The impossible shot tears through the night, defying the basic laws of physics. Through his enhanced optics, Cole watches as the single round appears to split into 3 distinct trajectories, each finding its mark with lethal precision. The helicopter's searchlight shatters. The Barrett 50 cal in the SUV's gun mount disintegrates, and the third impact triggers a cascade of electrical failures across his opponent's night vision equipment. Artemis, Protocol Echo, Cole whispers. The dog moves silently into the darkness, her specialized combat harness blending perfectly with the desert shadows. They've trained for this scenario countless times, but tonight, everything is different. The stakes are real, and the enemy knows. Too much. Incredible. Ramirez's voice crackles through the radio, genuine awe mixing with something darker. 7 years and you haven't lost the gift. Do you understand yet what you really are, Quicksilver? What you can do? The helicopter banks sharply, its pilot trying to maintain visual contact while staying out of Cole's firing arc. But there's something wrong with its movement. The rotor wash isn't displacing dust the way it should. It's as if the aircraft exists in 2 places simultaneously. Cole's phone lights up with an urgent message from Captain Chen. Satellite feed showing quantum anomalies around your position. Whatever they did in the valley, it's happening again. Get out now! Through his scope, Cole watches reality begin to bend around the impact points of his impossible shot. The air seems to shimmer, like heat waves on a summer highway, but the temperature is dropping rapidly. His tactical display shows readings that shouldn't exist. Quantum states fluctuating, probability fields collapsing and reforming. You feel it, don't you? Ramirez continues. The way reality bends around you. That's what made you special. What made that shot in Colombia possible. You're not just a shooter, Quicksilver. You're something else, something new. Cole moves positions as his opponents regroup, their movements becoming more coordinated despite the chaos. They're adapting to the impossible, just as he did 7 years ago. The memory surfaces with crystal clarity. The Valley mission, a shot that shouldn't have worked, the way time seemed to fragment in that moment. Sir, a new voice cuts through the radio chatter. Quantum readings are off the scale. It's happening just like the Valley tests. There's fear in the operator's voice, the kind of fear that comes from watching reality itself unravel. The northern infiltrator has recovered his nerve, attempting to flank Cole's position. His movement is perfect, textbook special forces, but he's operating on normal tactical principles. Cole doesn't play by those rules anymore. Not since the Valley. Fascinating. A new voice joins the radio channel. Female, clinical, familiar. Your quantum field manipulation is even more advanced than our models predicted. 7 years of isolation has only made you stronger. Cole's blood runs cold. Dr. Elena Santos, the quantum physicist who designed the Valley experiment, another ghost from that impossible mission. She had died in the explosion. He'd seen it happen, or thought he had. The others couldn't handle it, Santos continues, her voice carrying the detached interest of a scientist observing a specimen. Each test subject we tried, each veteran we evaluated. Their minds fractured when they attempted to manipulate quantum states. But you were born for this. Cole takes another shot, this one bending around a natural rock formation to disable one of his attacker's backup generators. The bullet seems to phase through solid matter, an impossibility made real by whatever he's become. The air around the impact point crystallizes briefly, probability waves collapsing into a single perfect outcome. Artemis, defensive pattern delta, Cole subvocalizes into his throat mic. The dog's thermal signature splits into multiple possibilities, confusing enemy targeting systems. Another gift from the Valley. His loyal companion had been changed. 2. though in ways he's never fully understood. His tactical display shows more anomalies forming. Temperature readings fluctuate wildly, and his quantum sensor, a prototype developed by Chen's team, is detecting parallel probability states beginning to overlap. It's just like the valley again, reality becoming soft around the edges. The valley wasn't just an accident, Ramirez's voice carries a note of triumph. It was a doorway, Quicksilver, a gateway to understanding what's really possible when you break the laws of physics. Your impossible shot that day, it proved our theories, proved that certain individuals could manipulate quantum states consciously. Cole moves through his property's defensive grid, triggering prepared countermeasures. EMP devices disable standard electronics, but the quantum-influenced equipment continues functioning. They've prepared for this, hardened their gear against normal attacks, but he's not normal anymore. 7 years, Santos picks up the thread, studying what happened to you, the way you can collapse quantum probability into perfect shots. No random chance, no uncertainty principle, pure causality under conscious control. Do you know how many died trying to replicate your abilities? The helicopter makes another pass, but now Cole can see it clearly through his enhanced perception. It exists in multiple states simultaneously, a tactical advantage they've somehow engineered from their understanding of what happened to him. His mind races, calculating possibilities that shouldn't exist. The murdered veterans, Cole speaks finally, his voice carried by his property's hidden speakers. You weren't just eliminating potential threats, you were testing them, trying to find others like me. Some lasted longer than others, Ramirez confirms. A few even managed basic quantum manipulation before their minds shattered. But none could maintain coherence like you. None could make the impossible shots routine. Cole's phone vibrates again. Chen sending data. The quantum anomalies are spreading, affecting a larger area. Local law enforcement. Could they? Reality itself is becoming unstable. The northern infiltrator makes his move, but Cole sees it before it happens. Not through tactical prediction or training, but through quantum perception. He sees every possible approach vector simultaneously. Probability waves collapsing into a single perfect moment. His countershot passes through 3 separate probability states, neutralizing all possible attack angles with a single round. Magnificent! Santos breathes over the radio. Complete conscious control of quantum collapse. Do you understand what you could become working with us? The power you could wield? But Cole isn't listening. His enhanced perception has spotted something else. Subtle distortions in space-time around his opponent's positions. They're not just using quantum-enhanced equipment. They're trying to replicate the Valley event itself. You fools, he transmits. You don't understand what you're dealing with. The Valley wasn't a doorway to power. It was a warning. Artemis returns to his position, her movement still shifting between probability states. The dog's eyes glow with an inner light, quantum effects made visible in her enhanced genetics. She whines softly, sensing what Cole has already realized. The quantum field is destabilizing, Santos announces, excitement overwhelming scientific detachment. Just like before, reality is becoming flexible. Through his scope, Cole watches as the desert around them begins to change. Light bends. At impossible angles, time flows at different rates in different locations. The helicopter seems to leave temporal echoes as it moves, each position existing simultaneously in fractured space-time. You want to know what really happened in that valley? Cole's voice carries absolute certainty now. Why that shot was truly impossible. It wasn't about hitting 3 targets with 1 round. It was about choosing which reality survived. His quantum sensor is screaming now, readings going off every scale. The air itself seems to crystallize in patches, probability waves becoming visible to the naked eye. His opponent's positions blur, each soldier existing in multiple states until observed. 7 years, he continues, learning to control it, learning to understand what I became, what that valley turned me into. But you never asked the most important question. And what's that? Ramirez demands, his voice distorting as reality fluctuates around them. Why I chose to disappear instead of using this power. Why I walked away from being a god. The quantum distortions reach a critical point, and Cole makes his move. But this time, he's not aiming at his opponents. This shot will determine which reality becomes permanent and which ones fade into quantum possibility. The night holds its breath, waiting to see which world will survive. Cole's shot tears through the fabric of reality itself, a single round designed not to kill but to stabilize the cascading quantum fluctuations. The bullet appears to move in slow motion, leaving a trail of crystallized time in its wake. Through his enhanced perception, he can see every possible trajectory simultaneously, each one leading to a different future. The air itself seems to fracture around the bullet's path, probability waves collapsing and reforming in its wake. "What are you doing?" Santos's voice carries genuine alarm now. "The quantum field readings, they're inverting. You'll collapse the entire probability matrix." The scientific detachment in her tone has been replaced by something close to panic as her instruments register the impossible. The desert landscape has become a kaleidoscope of possible realities. Cole watches through his tactical display as his property exists in multiple states simultaneously. In one reality, it's still night. In another, dawn is breaking. Time itself has become unstable as the valley effect spreads. The stars above shift positions as different timelines overlap, creating impossible constellations that represent all possible astronomical configurations. Artemis growls, but the sound echoes through multiple probability states, each version of the dog responding to a different threat. Her enhanced senses are picking up dangers that exist across parallel timelines, making her even more valuable as a tactical asset. The dog's military training has adapted to these quantum anomalies, allowing her to process multiple threat scenarios simultaneously without the mental breakdown that affects human observers. "You never understood," Cole transmits, his voice steady, despite the chaos surrounding them. "The valley wasn't an opportunity, it was a containment breach. What you're trying to recreate isn't power. It's a rupture in reality itself. Each shot you forced those veterans to take wasn't just a test. It was widening the tear. The helicopter's searchlight catches him, but he's already moved, or rather collapsed the probability waves into a state where he was never there. His years of isolation weren't spent hiding. They were spent learning to control these abilities, to understand what he'd really become. The desert night around him flickers with quantum possibilities, each movement creating ripples in the fabric of reality. "Impossible," Santos breathes. "You're not just manipulating quantum states, you're choosing which reality becomes concrete. This is beyond anything we achieved in our tests. The human mind shouldn't be capable of this level of quantum coherence." Through his scope, Cole watches his opponents struggling with the shifting reality. Their quantum-enhanced gear was designed to give them an edge, but now it's working against them, showing them too many possibilities at once. He can see their minds starting to fracture under the strain of perceiving multiple timelines simultaneously. One operator falls to his knees, overwhelmed by seeing every possible version of himself existing at once. 7 years ago, Cole continues, moving through probabilities rather than physical space, I didn't make an impossible shot. I chose which reality survived when the breach began. Those 3 targets you're so obsessed with, they were probability anchors. By hitting them simultaneously, I sealed the rupture, but each time you try to replicate it, you weaken the seal. His tactical display shows more quantum anomalies forming as Ramirez's team continues their attempt to recreate the Valley event. They don't realize they're actually widening the original breach, weakening the barriers between possible realities. The air shimmers with probability distortions, reality becoming thin and permeable in places where the quantum field is most disturbed. Cole's phone vibrates with an urgent update from Chen. Multiple quantum breaches detected, not just at your location, they're appearing across the southwest. Whatever they did, it's spreading. The original Valley event is cascading. Readings match the patterns from 7 years ago, but exponentially stronger. The night air crackles, with quantum energy, visible now even to normal human perception. Probability waves manifest as shimmering curtains of light, each one representing a different possible reality trying to occupy the same space. The temperature fluctuates wildly, as thermodynamic laws break down in areas of high quantum instability. Through his enhanced perception, Cole sees the truth. Each murdered veteran, each forced attempt to recreate his impossible shot has created small tears in reality. Now those tears are connecting, forming a network of quantum instabilities that threatens to shatter the barrier between possible worlds. The pattern is deliberate, he realizes. They weren't just testing candidates, they were creating a geometric array of quantum breaches. Captain Chen, Dr. Santos's voice cuts through the quantum static. I should have known you'd be involved. Still trying to understand what happened to your team in the valley? How many died when reality fractured? How many minds broke when they saw what exists between possibilities? Elena, Chen responds, patching into the general frequency. You're playing with forces you don't understand. The valley wasn't a breakthrough, it was a warning. Why do you think the government buried everything? Why do you think they erased all records of Project Quantum Archer? The helicopter makes another pass, but now it exists in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Cole watches through his scope as it occupies several positions at once, each representing a different probability timeline. The pilot's mind must be struggling to maintain coherence across multiple realities. Through his enhanced optics, Cole can see the man's nose beginning to bleed, a sign of quantum perception overload. The government buried it because they feared the power, Ramirez shouts, his voice echoing across probability states. Imagine soldiers who could choose which reality manifests, weapons that exist in quantum superposition until the moment of impact. We could reshape the world, select the perfect outcome from infinite possibilities. The desert around them continues to fragment into multiple states. Cacti exist in several stages of growth simultaneously. Rocks show erosion patterns from thousands of possible years, and the very ground seems to shift between different geological epochs. The quantum instabilities are affecting not just space, but time itself. Cole takes another shot, this one carefully calculated to collapse multiple probability waves into a single stable timeline. The round appears to split and rejoin itself, passing through several possible realities before finding its mark. One of the SUV's phases briefly out of existence, then reappears with its quantum-enhanced equipment completely neutralized. The laws of physics reassert themselves in a localized bubble around the vehicle. You still don't understand, Cole transmits. Each time you force these quantum manipulations, you're weakening the fundamental structure of reality. The valley wasn't an accident or an opportunity. It was an incursion. Something noticed our meddling with quantum states, something that exists in the spaces between possibilities. Incursion. Santos's scientific detachment wavers. From what? What could possibly exist outside of conventional reality? From what? Lies between realities, Chen cuts in. The quantum void, where all possibilities exist simultaneously. We weren't supposed to see it, weren't meant to interact with it, but the Valley experiment tore open the veil, and now they're watching, waiting, using our own attempts to replicate the breach as a way to widen the tear. Artemis suddenly alerts to a new threat, her enhanced senses detecting something emerging from the zones of highest quantum instability. The air itself seems to crystallize and shatter, revealing glimpses of something, forms that exist in non-Euclidean space, entities that represent the convergence of all possibilities. The dog's quantum-enhanced perception allows her to process these impossible sights without the mental breakdown that affects unmodified organisms. "My God," Santos whispers, finally seeing what their meddling has awakened. The quantum readings. They're not random. There's a pattern, a purpose. These breaches, they're forming some kind of network, a geometric pattern that spans hundreds of miles. Cole's tactical display is showing impossible data now. The quantum breaches aren't just tiers in reality. They're forming a geometric pattern across the southwest. Each site where they forced veterans to attempt impossible shots has become a node in a vast network of instability. The pattern resembles a massive version of the probability diagram he saw in the valley 7 years ago. The shots. "You made us take." The northern infiltrator's voice shakes as understanding dawns. "Every time we failed, every time our minds broke, we weren't just failing the test. We were weakening the barriers, creating anchor points for whatever exists out there. The quantum distortions intensify, creating areas where reality itself becomes malleable." Through his scope, Cole watches as rocks and vegetation cycle through millions of years of possible evolution in seconds. Time is becoming unstable. Probability waves collapsing and reforming at random intervals. "Now you're beginning to understand," Cole confirms, taking position for what he knows will be the most important shot of his life. "7 years ago, I didn't just make an impossible shot. I prevented something from breaking through, something that exists in the space between possibilities. Something that sees our reality as just one of infinite potential states and wants to collapse them all into a single, perfect probability. His quantum sensor is detecting massive disturbances. Now, the very fabric of space-time is becoming unstable as the network of breaches begins to synchronize. Through his enhanced perception, Cole can see multiple versions of reality trying to occupy the same space, each timeline fighting for dominance. The air shimmers with probability waves, making it impossible to tell which version of events is real anymore. "The Valley experiment," Chen explains, her voice steady despite the chaos. "It didn't give Cole his abilities. It just awakened something that was always there. A human being capable of consciously manipulating quantum probability, a living paradox who could perceive and choose which reality becomes concrete. But it also attracted attention from elsewhere. But why hide it?" Ramirez demands, desperation creeping into his voice as reality continues to fragment around them. "Why bury the truth about what you can do?" "Because every time someone tries to replicate it, they create another tier," Cole responds, watching through his scope as reality continues to fragment around them. Each failed attempt, each shattered mind, weakens the quantum barrier a little more. And now, he doesn't need to finish the sentence. They can all see it now. The shapes moving in the spaces between possibilities, entities that represent the convergence of all potential realities. The true horror of the Valley experiment wasn't what it created, but what it attracted. Beings that exist outside conventional space-time, drawn to disturbances in the quantum field like predators to blood in the water. Cole chambers another round. This one, specially designed for what he knows, must come next. The bullet is made from materials exposed to the original Valley event, quantum entangled with the very fabric of reality itself. 7 years of preparation, of understanding what he truly faced in that valley, has led to this moment. 7 years of preparation, he transmits as reality holds its breath around him. Not hiding, training, learning to control these abilities. "Because I knew you'd eventually succeed in recreating the Valley event. And when you did, the quantum breaches reached critical synchronization. Reality itself seems to pause as Cole prepares to make another impossible shot, one that will determine not just which possibility becomes real, but whether reality itself survives intact. Time fractures around Cole as he takes the shot. The quantum-entangled round leaving probability trails through multiple realities simultaneously. Through his enhanced perception, he watches the bullet exist in several states at once, fired and unfired, hitting and missing, past and future merging in its wake. In its incredible, Santos breathes through the quantum static. The bullet isn't just traveling through space, it's moving through possibility itself. You're not aiming at a target, you're selecting which reality becomes dominant. The desert night has become a kaleidoscope of temporal states. Stars wheel overhead in impossible patterns as multiple astronomical configurations try to exist simultaneously. The ground beneath them shifts through eons of geological possibilities, while the air itself crystallizes with quantum potential. "Chen," Cole transmits, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Are you seeing this? The pattern. It's not just in the southwest. The quantum breaches are forming a larger structure." Confirmed, Chen's response crackles through reality fluctuations. Satellite data shows similar distortions appearing globally. The Valley experiment wasn't unique. There have been others throughout history, places where reality wore thin. Through his tactical display, Cole watches as his opponent's quantum-enhanced equipment begins to overload. Their attempts to manipulate probability are backfiring, creating cascading failures in the fabric of space-time. An operator simply vanishes, probability waves collapsing him out of existence entirely. You see it now, don't you? Cole addresses Ramirez as reality continues to fragment around them. Why the original mission was a cover, why certain shots seem impossible until they're made. Throughout history, there have always been those who could manipulate probability, legendary marksmen who made shots that defied physics. The helicopter pilot suddenly screams over the radio, his mind finally breaking under the strain of perceiving multiple realities. The aircraft exists in several states at once. Crashed, flying, never built, all possibilities trying to manifest simultaneously. Cole watches through his scope as the pilot's consciousness splinters across quantum states. "The Millennium Sniper in Baghdad," Chen's voice cuts through the chaos. "The Ghost of Stalingrad, the Shadow of Hugh. They weren't just skilled marksmen. They were like you, Cole. Natural quantum manipulators who could collapse probability waves into perfect shots," Artemis growls. But the sound echoes through multiple timelines. Through his enhanced perception, Cole sees what his companion has detected, shapes moving in the spaces between realities, not physical forms, but probability constructs, entities that exist as pure quantum potential. The government didn't bury the Valley incident to hide its success, Santos realizes, her scientific detachment crumbling. They buried it because they discovered we weren't alone, that something else was already manipulating quantum states, something that's been waiting for us to tear enough holes in reality. Cole's quantum sensor is showing critical readings now. The network of breaches is becoming more organized, forming a complex geometric pattern that spans continents. Each site where they forced veterans to attempt impossible shots has become a node in a vast web of quantum instability. 7 years! Ramirez shouts, his voice distorting across probability states. 7 years hunting you, trying to replicate what you can do. Do you know how many died? How many minds shattered when they saw what lives between possibilities? Through his scope, Cole watches as reality continues to unravel. The desert landscape cycles through infinite variations. Lush jungle, frozen wasteland, urban sprawl, each possibility fighting for dominance. His enhanced perception allows him to see the pattern beneath the chaos, the deliberate weakening of quantum barriers. The valley wasn't an accident, Cole transmits, moving through probability rather than space. It was a test. Something has been watching us, waiting for humanity to advance enough to perceive quantum states consciously. Each legendary marksman throughout history was another probe, another test of our species' potential. His tactical display shows more quantum anomalies forming. The air itself seems to be developing fault lines, cracks in reality where probability waves collapse and reform at random. Through these breaches, he catches glimpses of other worlds, other possibilities, and the entities that exist between them. The murdered veterans, Chen's voice carries grim understanding. They weren't just failed experiments. Their attempts to manipulate quantum states were creating weak points, places where the barrier between realities could be breached. You've been building a door. A door? Santos questions, but Cole can hear the dawning horror in her voice as her instruments confirm Chen's theory. My God, the geometric pattern, it's not random. It's a quantum circuit designed to collapse all possibilities into one perfect reality, Cole finishes. That's what lives out there, in the quantum void. Beings that exist as pure probability, seeing our universe of concrete events as an aberration. They want to reset reality itself, to return everything to a state of quantum potential. A new sound cuts through the quantum chaos, a high-pitched whine that exists in all probability states simultaneously. Cole's tactical display shows massive energy surges as the network of breaches begins to synchronize. The geometric pattern is becoming active, each node pulsing with quantum potential. It's starting, Santos warns, her voice trembling. The quantum circuit? It's achieving coherence. Reality itself is becoming unstable on a global scale. Every possible timeline trying to exist at once. Through his enhanced perception, Cole watches as more operators succumb to quantum overload. Their minds weren't designed to process multiple realities simultaneously. Even their quantum-enhanced equipment is failing, unable to handle the surge of probability waves. Tell them what you really found in the valley, Cole demands of Ramirez. What was in those classified files you stole? Why you've spent 7 years hunting someone who could make impossible shots. Ramirez laughs, but the sound fragments across multiple timelines. Ancient texts hidden in classified archives. Stories of marksmen throughout history who could bend reality itself. And drawings, geometric patterns identical to the quantum circuit we're creating. Someone left us instructions, breadcrumbs leading to this moment. Artemis suddenly stiffens, her enhanced senses detecting a new threat. The quantum void between realities is widening, the entities that dwell there becoming more distinct. Through his scope, Cole sees shapes that shouldn't be possible, forms that exist as pure mathematical probability. They're coming through, Chen warns. The quantum circuit is creating a stable bridge between possibilities. Every breached reality, every failed experiment has been leading to this. They're not just watching anymore, they're manifesting. Cole chambers another quantum-entangled round, this one containing materials from multiple reality states. The bullet exists in several quantum states simultaneously, a weapon designed to affect probability itself. 7 years of preparation, of understanding what really happened in the valley, has led to this moment. You don't understand what you've done, Cole transmits to his opponents. These entities, they don't want to help us control quantum states. They want to return everything to pure probability. No fixed reality, no concrete events, just endless possibility. The helicopter finally succumbs to quantum destabilization, its probability waves collapsing into chaos. The aircraft exists in multiple crash states, each one rippling through reality like waves in a pond. The pilot's final scream echoes across timelines. The Valley mission, Santos realizes, the original experiment, it wasn't about creating super soldiers or impossible shots. Something was guiding us, manipulating events to create this quantum circuit. We thought we were the experimenters, but we were the experiment. Cole's quantum sensor shows critical mass approaching. The geometric pattern spans the globe now, each node pulsing in perfect synchronization. Reality itself is becoming thin, permeable, as the barriers between possibilities break down. 7 years, Cole says quietly, taking aim at something only he can perceive. Not hiding, preparing, learning to understand what I really am, what humanity could become, but also learning why we're not ready, why some possibilities should remain just that, possibilities. The quantum breach reaches critical point, and Cole makes his final move. But this shot isn't aimed at his opponents, or even at the entities emerging from the quantum void. This shot will determine which reality becomes permanent, and more importantly, which ones must never be allowed to manifest. The night holds its breath across multiple timelines as Quicksilver prepares to make one last impossible shot. Not to create a perfect reality, but to preserve the imperfect one we have. Time fragments around Cole as multiple realities try to occupy the same space. The quantum entities emerging from the void between possibilities have begun taking more concrete forms, geometric patterns that hurt the human mind to perceive, shapes that exist in more dimensions than our universe allows. The circuit is complete. Santos's voice carries across probability waves. The quantum network is fully synchronized. Do you see them, Cole? The ones who guided us here? The architects of possibility? Through his enhanced perception, Cole watches as reality continues to unravel. The desert around his property exists in multiple states simultaneously. Past, present, and possible futures overlapping like transparent photographs. In one timeline, it's still pristine wilderness. In another, it's a sprawling metropolis, each possibility fighting for dominance. 7 years, Ramirez calls out, his voice distorting as he struggles to maintain coherence across quantum states. 7 years, searching for someone who could stabilize the quantum field, who could make the impossible shots that would open the door. But you weren't just hiding, were you? You were learning to close it. Cole moves through probability rather than physical space, each step taking him through multiple possible positions. Simultaneously, Artemis follows, the dog's enhanced genetics allowing her to navigate the quantum chaos. Through his tactical display, he watches as the geometric pattern of breaches pulses with increasing power. The ancient texts were wrong. Jen's voice crackles through reality fluctuations. They weren't instructions left by benevolent beings, they were a trap. Each legendary marksman throughout history who could manipulate quantum states, they weren't just gifted individuals, they were proof that humanity was becoming ready to be harvested. The quantum entities continue to emerge, their forms becoming more distinct as reality thins. They move with impossible grace, each motion existing in multiple states at once. Through his scope, Cole can see their true nature, beings of pure probability to whom our fixed reality is an aberration to be corrected. Look at what you've done, Cole transmits to his opponents. Every veteran you forced to attempt impossible. Shots. Every mind you broke trying to replicate the Valley event. You weren't just creating nodes in a quantum network. You were creating anchor points for their invasion. The helicopter, still existing in multiple crash states, finally settles into a single reality. But not before its quantum instability creates a new breach in space-time. The tear spreads like a crack in glass, revealing more of the void between possibilities. The government didn't bury the Valley incident to hide its success, Santos realizes, her scientific detachment completely gone. They buried it because they discovered what we'd really done, what we'd invited in. But it was too late. The quantum entities had already found us, found you, Cole's quantum sensor screams warnings as new entities emerge. Unlike the first wave, these forms are more coherent, as if they're learning to exist in our reality. They move with purpose, each motion rippling through multiple probability states. It was never about creating super soldiers, Chen explains, through the quantum static. The Valley experiment, the impossible shots, they were tests. The entities were looking for humans who could perceive quantum states naturally. People, like you, Cole, living probability anchors. Through his tactical display, Cole watches as his opponent's quantum-enhanced equipment begins to overload completely. The technology was never meant to handle this level of reality distortion. One by one, their systems fail, leaving them vulnerable to the chaos of overlapping timelines. The ancient marksman, Ramirez gasps, fighting to maintain his sanity as reality fractures around him. The ones who could make impossible shots. They weren't just gifted, they were like you, natural quantum manipulators. But something happened to them. They disappeared. Cole moves to a new position, calculating trajectories through probability itself. Each step must be perfect, each movement precisely calibrated to maintain coherence in this destabilizing reality. Artemis follows, her enhanced senses helping her navigate the quantum chaos. They didn't disappear, Cole transmits, his voice steady despite the chaos. They were taken, absorbed into the quantum void. Every legendary marksman who could manipulate probability, they became part of something else. Something that exists between possibilities. The night sky above them has become a kaleidoscope of astronomical possibilities. Stars and galaxies shifting positions as multiple timeline versions try to exist simultaneously. The quantum entities move through this chaos with disturbing ease, their forms becoming more defined with each passing moment. "Sir!" One of Ramirez's surviving operators calls out, his voice cracking with panic. "Multiple quantum signatures approaching. They're coming from every breach point. The entire network is activating." Through his scope, Cole watches as new tiers in reality appear. Each site where they forced veterans to attempt impossible shots has become a gateway, a point where the barrier between possibilities has worn thin. The quantum entities pour through these breaches, their forms becoming more coherent as they adapt to our reality. "The pattern," Santos breathes, her instruments registering impossible readings. "It's not just a circuit, it's a template. They're using the quantum network to reshape our reality, to make it more like theirs, a realm of pure probability where nothing is fixed, where everything exists in superposition." Cole chambers another quantum-entangled round, this one designed specifically for what he knows must come next. The bullet exists in multiple states simultaneously, a weapon crafted to affect probability itself. 7 years of preparation have led to this moment. "You still don't understand what you're dealing with," Cole warns, taking aim at something only he can perceive. "These entities, they're not invaders in the traditional sense. They're probability incarnate. They don't want to conquer our reality. They want to dissolve it, to return everything to a state of quantum potential." A new frequency cuts through the quantum chaos, a signal that exists in all probability, states simultaneously. Through his enhanced perception, Cole recognizes it instantly, the same signature he detected in the valley 7 years ago, just before everything went wrong. "That signal," Santos gasps, her instruments detecting the impossible pattern. "It matches the quantum resonance from the Valley experiment, but it's stronger now, more coherent, as if they've been waiting." Cole finishes, watching through his scope as reality continues to fragment. The Valley wasn't an accident or a breakthrough, it was a beacon, and now they're answering. Through his tactical display, Cole watches as new quantum signatures emerge from the void. Unlike the geometric entities they've encountered so far, these forms are eerily familiar. human-shaped but existing in multiple states simultaneously, and with a terrible revelation, he recognizes them. My God, Chen's voice carries horror across probability waves. The missing marksmen throughout history, they're not gone. They've been transformed, converted into quantum beings themselves. The figures move with impossible grace through the fractured reality, each one leaving trails of probability in their wake. Through his enhanced perception, Cole can see what they truly are. Human consciousness freed from single-state existence, transformed into beings of pure quantum potential. Now you understand, one of the figures speaks, its voice resonating across all possible frequencies. Why we chose you, Quicksilver. Why we guided humanity toward quantum manipulation. Each impossible shot, each breach in reality, steps toward evolution. Cole takes aim through his quantum-enhanced scope, but what he sees defies conventional targeting. The transformed marksmen exist in multiple firing solutions simultaneously. Each one represents a different legendary shooter. From history, names spoken in whispers among special forces operators, impossible feats that became military legends. The ghost of Stalingrad, Cole identifies one of the quantum beings, the shadow sniper of Saigon, the desert phantom, every marksman who could manipulate probability. You took them, changed them, but why? Why orchestrate all of this? Evolution demands sacrifice. The quantum beings speak in unison, their voices creating ripples in reality itself. Your understanding of existence is limited by linear time, by fixed states. We offer freedom from such constraints, the ability to exist in all possibilities simultaneously. Through his tactical display, Cole watches as more of Ramirez's men succumb to quantum exposure. Their minds weren't designed to process multiple realities at once. But strangely, some begin to show signs of adaptation, their consciousness starting to fragment across probability states. The experiments, Santos realizes, her voice shaking. The veterans you forced to attempt impossible shots. You weren't just testing them. You were trying to trigger quantum awareness, to identify those who could be converted. Precisely, the quantum beings confirm. Humanity stands on the brink of a great transition. Some individuals are already developing natural quantum perception, the ability to see and manipulate probability itself. Like you, Quicksilver, you're not just a gifted shooter, you're a prototype of what humanity could become. Cole moves through probability waves, each step calculated to maintain coherence in the fragmenting reality. Artemis follows, her enhanced genetics allowing her to process the quantum chaos. The dog's military training has adapted to these impossible conditions, proving that even non-human consciousness can evolve to perceive quantum states. The Valley experiment, Chen cuts in, her voice carrying grim understanding. It wasn't just about creating super soldiers or impossible shots. It was a test run. You were measuring humanity's readiness for quantum ascension. For millennia, we've guided your species, the transformed marksmen explain. Each legendary shot that defied physics, each seeming miracle of accuracy, breadcrumbs leading to this moment. The quantum circuit you've helped complete isn't just a network of breaches. It's a transformation matrix. Through his scope, Cole watches as reality continues to unravel around them. The desert exists in multiple states simultaneously, past, present, and possible futures overlapping like transparent films. But now, he sees the pattern beneath the chaos, the deliberate weakening of quantum barriers. You're planning to force evolution, Cole transmits, understanding finally dawning. The quantum circuit, the geometric pattern of breaches, it's designed to expose the entire planet to quantum effects, to break down the barriers between possibilities permanently. Those who survive the quantum transition will evolve, the beings confirm. Their consciousness will expand to perceive and exist in multiple states simultaneously. Those who can't adapt, they gesture to Ramirez's fallen men, their minds shattered by exposure to quantum reality. Cole's tactical display shows the quantum circuit reaching critical levels of synchronization. Each breach point pulses in perfect harmony, creating waves of probability that wash across the planet. Through his enhanced perception, he can see similar effects manifesting globally, reality becoming thin and permeable everywhere. 7 years, Cole says, his voice hard. 7 years learning to control these abilities, to understand what really happened in the valley, but you made one crucial mistake. You assumed that because I could perceive quantum states, I would welcome this transformation. You cannot stop. Evolution, the quantum beings resonate. The circuit is complete. The transformation has begun. Humanity will ascend to quantum existence or die trying, Chen interrupts. That's what this really is, isn't it? Not evolution, extinction. How many would survive having their consciousness forcibly expanded across quantum states? Through his scope, Cole watches as the first effects of global quantum exposure become visible. The air shimmers with probability waves, reality flickering between states as the barriers weaken. In the distance, the lights of Copper Springs exist in multiple configurations simultaneously. The ancient texts, Santos breathes, final understanding dawning. The patterns we found, the instructions for creating the quantum circuit, they weren't a gift, they were a trap. A way to make us participate in our own transformation. A necessary deception, the quantum beings acknowledge. Individual consciousness must choose to embrace quantum existence. By building the circuit yourselves, by seeking to control quantum probability, humanity has chosen its path. Cole chambers another specialized round, this one containing materials exposed to multiple quantum states. The bullet exists in several probability states simultaneously, a weapon designed for exactly this moment. But as he takes aim, he realizes something that changes everything. The signal from the valley, he transmits to Chen, compare it to the current quantum signatures. There's a pattern we missed, something hidden in the probability waves themselves. Through his enhanced perception, Cole can finally see the truth, a revelation that explains everything from the valley incident to the present crisis. The quantum beings aren't just transformed humans or interdimensional entities. There's something far more significant and far more terrifying. They're us, Cole announces, his voice carrying absolute certainty. Not aliens or supernatural beings. They're humanity's future, or one possible future. A timeline where quantum manipulation led to the complete dissolution of fixed reality. They're not invading our world. They're trying to ensure their own existence by forcing our evolution down the same path. The quantum beings' forms flicker at Cole's revelation, their probability states becoming momentarily unstable. Through his tactical display, he watches as their patterns shift, becoming more recognizable, echoes of human forms beneath the quantum distortions. Very perceptive, Quicksilver, they acknowledge, their voices carrying traces of humanity beneath the quantum resonance. We are what humanity becomes in a future where quantum perception becomes dominant, where consciousness exists across all impossibilities simultaneously. We reach back through time not to invade, but to preserve our own timeline. By forcing us to evolve the same way you did, Chen realizes. The Valley experiment, the murdered veterans, the quantum circuit, you're not advancing our evolution. You're ensuring it follows your path exactly. Cole's quantum sensor shows critical readings as the transformation matrix approaches full power. The geometric pattern of breaches pulses with increasing energy, each node broadcasting probability, waves that break down the barriers between possible realities. You don't understand what you're risking, Cole warns, his enhanced perception showing him the true scope of their manipulation. By forcing quantum evolution, you're not just transforming humanity, you're collapsing all other possible futures. Every timeline where we choose a different path, those futures are aberrations, the quantum beings declare. Fixed states, limited consciousness, linear time, these are evolutionary dead ends. We offer transcendence, the ability to exist in all states simultaneously. Through his scope, Cole watches as more tiers appear in reality. Each breach reveals glimpses of other timelines, other possibilities, and most crucially, other versions of humanity. Some have achieved quantum awareness naturally, evolving at their own pace. Others have found different paths entirely. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Cole transmits, final understanding dawning. You're not preserving your timeline. You're afraid of the alternatives, other possible futures where humanity achieves something different, something that threatens your existence. The quantum beings' forms become more agitated, probability waves distorting around them. In their reaction, Cole sees confirmation of his theory. These entities aren't guardians of evolution. They're temporal tyrants, forcing all of humanity down a single quantum path to ensure their own supremacy. The valley wasn't just an experiment, Cole continues, taking aim at something only he can perceive. It was a glimpse of what we become if we let you dictate our evolution, but you forgot something crucial about probability, about the nature of impossible shots. And what's that? The beings demand, their forms consolidating. Aim for an attack. The best shots aren't about hitting the target, Cole replies, his finger steady on the trigger. They're about understanding the space between shooter and target, the path the bullet takes, and sometimes the best shot is the one you choose not to make. The quantum circuit reaches critical mass, reality holding its breath across multiple timelines as Cole prepares to make a choice that will affect not just the present, but all possible futures of humanity. Cole's finger hovers over the trigger as probability waves wash across the desert landscape. Through his enhanced perception, he can see every possible outcome of this moment simultaneously, each choice creating ripples through time and reality itself. But among these infinite possibilities, one truth becomes clear. You made a fundamental mistake, Cole transmits to the quantum beings. You assumed that because I could perceive quantum states, I would choose your path. But seeing all possibilities doesn't mean you have to collapse them into a single reality. The quantum beings react to his words, their forms shifting through multiple states as they prepare to strike. The transformed marksmen from history move with impossible grace, each motion existing in several probabilities at once. You cannot stop evolution. They resonate across all frequencies. The quantum circuit is complete. The transformation matrix will expose all of humanity to quantum effects. Those who survive will ascend to our state of existence. Through his tactical display, Cole watches as the geometric pattern of breaches pulses with increasing power. Each node in the quantum network broadcasts waves of probability that continue to break down the barriers between possible realities. The air itself seems to crystallize with potential. Chen, Cole transmits on a secure quantum frequency. Are you seeing this? The pattern in their movement, it's not random. They're positioning themselves according to the same geometric formula as the breach points. Confirmed, Chen responds, her voice steady despite the chaos. They're not just maintaining the quantum circuit, they're becoming part of it. Each transformed marksman is acting as a probability anchor, stabilizing the reality distortions. Santos's instruments register massive energy spikes as the quantum beings consolidate their positions. The transformation matrix is reaching critical mass. Whatever you're planning, Cole, it needs to happen now. Once the quantum effects spread, beyond a certain point, there's no going back. Cole chambers his final round, a bullet that exists in quantum superposition, designed to affect probability itself. Through his scope, he can see the complex web of possibilities surrounding each quantum being, each one representing a different potential future for humanity. The ancient texts weren't just instructions, Cole announces, his enhanced perception revealing the true pattern. They were a warning, a message from other timelines where humanity found different paths to quantum awareness. You've been eliminating these alternatives, forcing every reality to follow your specific evolution. Those paths lead to chaos. The quantum beings respond in unison. Only through controlled transformation, through our guidance, can humanity achieve true quantum existence. We are the perfect outcome, the ideal fusion of human consciousness and quantum reality. Artemis growls, the sound echoing through multiple probability states. The dog's enhanced senses detect something the quantum beings are trying to hide, instability in their own existence. Their perfect evolution isn't as perfect as they claim. You're not the perfect outcome, Cole transmits, moving through probability rather than space. You're just one possibility among infinite others. And you're terrified of those alternatives, other versions of humanity that might evolve to challenge your dominion over quantum reality. Through his tactical display, Cole watches as reality continues to fragment. The desert exists in multiple states simultaneously, each one representing a different potential future, but beneath the chaos, he sees something the quantum beings didn't want anyone to notice. Traces of other evolutionary paths, other ways of perceiving quantum states. The Valley experiment showed us something you didn't intend, he continues, taking final aim. It revealed that humanity could develop quantum awareness naturally, without forced evolution, without sacrificing our connection to fixed reality. Impossible, the quantum beings declare, but there's uncertainty in their resonance. Consciousness cannot exist in both states, fixed and quantum. The transformation must be complete. Unless, Chen cuts in, understanding dawning, that's exactly what you're afraid of. A humanity that can perceive quantum states while maintaining its connection to linear time. Beings who can choose which possibilities to collapse, rather than existing in perpetual superposition. Cole's quantum sensor registers massive disturbances as the truth affects the transformed marksman. Their forms flicker between states more rapidly now, coherence wavering as doubt enters their quantum consciousness. The murdered veterans, Santos realizes, you didn't kill them because they failed your tests. You eliminated them because some were developing natural quantum perception. They were evolving along a different path, one you couldn't control. Through his scope, Cole watches as the quantum circuit begins to destabilize. The geometric pattern of breaches pulses erratically as the being's control wavers. Each node in the transformation matrix flickers between states of activation and collapse. 7 years, Cole transmits, moving into his final position. Not hiding, not running, learning to understand what I really am, what humanity could become naturally. Each impossible shot wasn't just about hitting targets. It was about learning to exist in both states simultaneously. Ramirez, still struggling to maintain coherence in the quantum chaos, manages to speak. The Valley. What really happened? There. What did you see? I saw other possibilities, Cole answers, his enhanced perception focused on something beyond normal reality. Other timelines where humanity achieved quantum awareness without losing its humanity. The shot I made that day, it wasn't just about hitting 3 targets. It was about preserving those possibilities. The quantum beings moved to strike, their forms shifting through multiple attack patterns simultaneously. But Cole sees every possibility before it manifests. His quantum perception shows him not just where they are, but every place they could be. You fear balance, he continues, tracking multiple targets across probability states. The possibility that consciousness can exist in both fixed and quantum states. Because in timelines where humanity achieves that balance naturally, your version of evolution becomes obsolete. Through his tactical display, Cole watches as more quantum signatures appear, but these are different from the transformed marksman. These patterns show consciousness existing in both states simultaneously, beings that can perceive quantum reality while maintaining their connection to fixed time. "They're coming through," Chen reports, her instruments detecting the new signatures, "from other timelines, other evolutionary paths." The quantum circuit doesn't just work for their version of reality, it's creating bridges to all possible futures. The quantum beings react with increasing desperation as more alternative signatures manifest. Their perfect geometric pattern begins to break down as other possibilities intrude on their carefully constructed transformation matrix. "You don't understand what you're risking," they resonate, their voices carrying traces of fear beneath the quantum harmonics. "Without our guidance, the evolution will be chaotic, unpredictable. Reality itself could shatter under the strain of conflicting quantum states." Cole takes his final aim, not at the beings themselves, but at the space between possibilities. The quantum void, where all potential futures exist simultaneously. His enhanced perception shows him exactly where to strike to affect probability itself. "That's where you're wrong," he transmits. "Reality isn't as fragile as you think. Consciousness can exist in multiple states without forcing a single outcome. The impossible shots, they were never about perfect accuracy. They were about understanding that all possibilities can coexist." Through his scope, Cole watches as the transformation matrix reaches its critical point, but instead of forcing a single evolutionary path, the quantum circuit has become a gateway for all possible futures. Each breach point now pulses with multiple quantum signatures, representing different paths of human evolution. "Now, Chen," Cole signals, engaging his final protocol. Around the property, hidden quantum resonators activate, creating a stabilizing field that allows multiple probability states to exist without collapsing. The technology is based on what he learned in the valley, refined over 7 years of preparation. "You cannot stop what we've set in motion," the quantum beings declare, but their forms are becoming less stable as alternative futures manifest around them. "The transformation has begun." "You're right," Cole acknowledges, his finger steady on the trigger, "but you don't get to dictate its course anymore. Humanity will find its own path to quantum awareness, all paths, every possibility, existing and evolving simultaneously." His quantum-entangled round leaves the barrel, the shot bending not just through space, but through probability itself. The bullet exists in multiple states at once, affecting not just the physical reality, but the quantum framework that underlies existence. "The perfect shot," Cole transmits as reality holds its breath, "isn't about eliminating possibilities. It's about preserving them all." The round strikes its target, not the quantum beings, but the very mechanism they use to control human evolution. The transformation matrix shatters, but instead of collapsing all possibilities, it opens the way for every potential future to exist simultaneously. The desert night fills with quantum resonance as multiple versions of humanity's future manifest briefly before settling into a new equilibrium. The transformed marksmen fade from view, their single perfect future now just one possibility among many. As the quantum chaos subsides, Cole watches through his enhanced perception as reality stabilizes into something new. Not a single fixed state, but a dynamic balance of multiple possibilities, each one representing a different path to humanity's quantum evolution, the impossible shot that saved all possible futures. Dawn breaks over the desert in multiple states simultaneously, each sunrise representing a different possible future. Through His enhanced perception Cole watches as reality settles into a new equilibrium, not a single fixed timeline, but a dynamic balance of quantum possibilities. Incredible, Santos breathes, her instruments registering the new quantum state. The transformation matrix didn't collapse. It's stabilized. Multiple probability states existing in harmony without forcing a single outcome. Artemis moves. To Cole's side, the dog's enhanced senses adapting to the new reality. Her consciousness, like her master's, now exists in both fixed and quantum states, a bridge between old and new ways of perceiving existence. The readings match the valley, Chen reports through quantum-stabilized communications, but this time the effect is controlled, balanced. You didn't just stop their forced evolution, you created a framework for natural quantum development. The desert landscape shows subtle signs of the new reality. Objects and structures exist with slightly blurred edges, representing multiple probability states, held in perfect tension. The air itself seems to shimmer with quantum potential, but no longer threatens to tear reality apart. What happens now? Ramirez asks, his voice weak but steady. Like the other survivors, his consciousness has been altered by exposure to quantum effects. Not fully transformed like the beings they fought, but changed enough to perceive the new nature of reality. Now, Cole answers, securing his rifle as the quantum distortions settle, humanity gets to choose its own path, not forced into a single timeline, but free to explore all possibilities of quantum evolution. Through his tactical display, he watches as the global network of breach points transforms. Instead of forcing quantum transformation, they've become markers of possibility, places where consciousness can naturally bridge the gap between fixed and quantum states. The other timelines, Santos observes, her scientific curiosity returning as the immediate danger passes. The alternative evolutionary paths we glimpsed, they're still accessible, not dominating our reality, but adjacent, potential futures we can learn from. Cole moves through his property, assessing the changes. The quantum-enhanced security systems adapt to the new reality, now serving to maintain the delicate balance between states rather than defending against specific threats. 7 years of preparation, Chen muses over the comlink. You weren't just hiding or training, you were developing a way to preserve all possibilities, to let humanity evolve without losing its connection to fixed reality. The survivors of Ramirez's team gather slowly, their minds forever altered by what they've experienced. Some show signs of developing natural quantum perception, their consciousness expanding to bridge multiple states without fracturing. The impossible shots, one of them says, understanding dawning. They were never about perfect accuracy. They were about understanding that reality isn't as fixed as we thought, but also not as fluid as they wanted us to believe. Sheriff Reyes arrives with the local authorities, their vehicles kicking up dust that exists in multiple probability states. Like everyone within range of the final quantum event, they've been subtly changed, not transformed, but awakened to new possibilities of perception. Got a lot of calls about strange lights and impossible occurrences, she tells Cole, her eyes showing she perceives more than she's letting on. Guess some things are better left unexplained in the official report. The official story will be about a failed cartel operation, Chen confirms, through the quantum stable channel. But the truth is that humanity just took its first conscious step toward a new kind of existence. In the days that follow, Cole watches as the world begins to adapt to its new reality. Most people remain unaware of the subtle changes, perceiving only occasional moments of déjà vu or strange coincidences. But some, those naturally attuned to quantum states, start to see the multiple layers of possibility that now exist in harmony, It's already starting, Chen reports during their final quantum-secure communication. Natural quantum perception emerging globally, but slowly, manageably. Each person and each culture finding their own path to understanding these new possibilities. The desert around Cole's property becomes a sanctuary of sorts, a place where the barriers between quantum and fixed reality are particularly thin. Here, those developing natural abilities can learn to balance both states of existence, guided by someone who has walked that path before them. The quantum beings, Santos asks, during her last visit to document the changes. Do you think they'll return? Try to force their version of evolution again? They exist now as just one possibility among many, Cole responds, watching Artemis track quantum probability trails through the desert scrub. Their perfect future is still out there, but so are countless others. That's the real gift of quantum perception, understanding that no single path is absolute. Sheriff Reyes maintains her protective watch over the area, understanding more than she reveals. The official reports mention nothing of quantum reality or impossible shots, but she ensures that those who need to find their way to Cole's property can do so. The Valley incident, Ramirez reflects during his final conversation with Cole before departing to help others understand their emerging abilities. It was never about creating super soldiers or perfect shots. It was about learning. There are some things humanity needs to discover at its own pace. As the sun sets on this new reality, Cole stands on his porch, Artemis at his side. Through his enhanced perception, he watches multiple possible futures unfold like branches of an infinite tree. Some lead to quantum transcendence, others to technological marvels, and still others to paths yet unimagined. The impossible shot that saved all possibilities has become a beginning rather than an end. Humanity's first step toward understanding that the best future isn't about choosing a single perfect path. It's about preserving the freedom to choose any path at all. The legend of Quicksilver fades into quantum possibility, becoming just one of many stories about the day humanity learned to see beyond the limits of fixed reality. But in a desert property where probability waves dance like heat mirages, a marksman and his quantum-enhanced companion stand guard over all possible futures, ready to preserve the balance between what is and what could be.